everyone, how you doing? It's not going well for Trump, is it? A lot of the influencers, they got him elected, by the way, are now suddenly out in force, turning on him, saying how disappointed they are that he didn't turn out to be the man they thought he was, and obviously the Epstein list, him attacking Massey and Taylor Greene and all that kind of stuff. It's not going down well with the with the MAGA influencers. It's a bit after the horses bolted though, isn't it, folks? Because it's all well and good calling out Trump now and saying, what he's doing isn't right, and maybe he isn't the man we thought he was and all this kind of stuff. But it's not like Trump was new when he came to power this time. It's almost like he'd been in power before. We'd already had a term of it, hadn't we? We'd already had warp speed. And yet all these people suddenly came out and promoted him all over again and told people to go and vote for him all over again. And still pushed the fact that he was anti-establishment when he quite clearly wasn't, and had already proved that in a previous term. And I guess it's the same as those kind of same sort of influencers. Some of them are exactly the same influencers, some are not the same, but it's the same sort of mindset. They completely bought COVID, hook, line and sinker from the beginning, pushed it, promoted it, told people to stay in their house, told people to wear a mask, told people to get jabbed, and then suddenly went, having done all that, so again, the horses bolted, then went, actually, it's quite bad, isn't it? Perfect example of that. I saw a post the other day on X saying how let's have a shout out for all the people that opposed COVID, right? There's this long list of people, not a single Icke, but then I wasn't expecting one, because as I've said before, Icke is the most offensive four-letter word to a lot of people, even still now after all this, which is funny, but there you go. Anyway, in this list of people, he's listing, to be fair, a handful of people that actually did oppose it from the beginning, but lots of people that not only didn't oppose it in the beginning, but pushed it. And the name that really stuck out for me was Nigel Farage. Right, so Nigel Farage was on a list of people deserving of appreciation for speaking out about the COVID tyranny. Right, this is a man that came out at 8 PM and smacked his pots and pans like a prat on a Thursday for the NHS, and then came onto national television and said that he wanted Tony Blair, the war criminal and psychopath Tony Blair, to be vaccine czar. And this person ends up with their name on a list of people that deserve appreciation for standing up against the COVID tyranny. And you think to yourself, in what world? But that's what's happening now, maybe to a slightly less extreme, because that's just funny. But that's what's happening now in terms of people turning on Trump. Lots of the people that are speaking out, I saw Brett Weinstein did it today, lots of the people that he's another one that pushed COVID and then became a hero of the COVID resistance. How did that happen? But they came out now in the last, week, maybe some a little bit more. Candice, to be fair, has been a little bit longer, but a lot of them in the last week since this recent Epstein stuff, and there's more to come, by the way. Saying, Trump's this and Trump's that, and you're like, but you played a major role in getting him elected. So it's all well and good now, you almost trying to save your career and repositioning yourself as a voice of the alternative, when actually you played a crucial role in getting us to this point that you're now opposing. Now, I'm not being one of those, people that's a purist in that sense. Like, I understand people can change their mind, and I also understand that it's a numbers game, and actually we need more people to change their minds. So I'm not one of them. I know those people exist, that they're like, nah, if you fell for COVID, balls to you. I'm not like that at all. But there is a line where if you actively, not only fell for it, but if you actively promoted it and used your platform to push that tyranny, then if you've woken up to it, that's great. But you don't get to be the leader and the hero of the resistance. Not that anyone needs a leader or heroes anyway, but you get my point, that that's not how it works. And also, I will judge people on how they act when they're at the coalface, i.e. COVID, when you're at the coalface, i.e. the American elections, when, you know, there's all the you know, kind of back and forth, you know, Kamala and Trump and all that stuff's going on, when it wouldn't have been fashionable for you to come out and say, no, I'm not endorsing Trump because X, Y, and Z. And, well, Nick Fuentes is a perfect example of that. You know, whatever you think of Nick Fuentes, I'm on the fence, really. Some things he says I agree with, some things he says I really don't agree with. But he came out, didn't he, and said that he wasn't going to endorse Trump. Having been a Trumper, he said he wasn't endorsing Trump for this particular one in 2024. And he, oh mate, the vitriol that he got, absolute, you know, I'm going to get you blinded by the sun in a minute, folks. He got absolute vitriol for it. But at least he had the guts to come out and say it. And so I judge people by how they react at that point. So he was obviously, he's not a stupid man. Nick Fuentes, he knew that he was going to get absolute pelters for saying he wasn't going to endorse Trump, but he did it anyway. I'll have respect for that. Same with COVID, when it was dangerous and unfashionable, and dangerous, but I mean in terms of your career and your promotion and algorithmic support, for sure, and even your online status, because so many of us were being not only shadow banned but suspended and permanently banned in my father's case, for speaking out. Nigel Farage wasn't speaking out then. Richard Tice wasn't speaking out then, because he wouldn't dare. So they all promoted it. Brett Weinstein wasn't speaking out then, he was promoting it. Now it's socially acceptable to oppose it. Then they'll come out and say it. And it's the same with Trump. Now it's socially, among the MAGA base, among the right-leaning Democrats, it's socially acceptable now to call out Trump. So all these influencers are doing it. But they weren't doing it before, and in fact they were getting him elected. So, do you know what I mean? Right, I'm going to come this way, but try not to blind you. Now my takeaway from it, and the reason why I'm sort of walking and talking, is I'm hoping that people finally get it now. I saw Brett Weinstein this morning saying, well, I don't regret voting for Trump because the alternative in Harris was far worse. No, it wasn't. No, it really wasn't. Because they're two wings on the same bird, mate. So it wouldn't have mattered whether you'd have voted for Harris. You would have got the same result. You'd have gone on a different journey. You'd have gone on a journey with pride flags and ting, but the end result would have been the same because they're the same team. They're just wearing different outfits. And so what my hope is that finally people might start to twig that and go, do you know what? Okay, I thought I was voting for an outsider with Trump 3 times, and I got played. Okay, right, well that's me then. Like in terms of politics, that's me then. Because before Trump came along, a lot of these MAGAs accepted it was a one-party state. They accepted that it didn't matter who you voted for, the government got in. 2 wings on the same bird, 2 cheeks on the same arse, all that stuff. Then suddenly Trump was touted as this alternative, which of course he wasn't, and they realise that now. So because he was touted as an alternative, they went for it, because they thought, oh, hang on. He's not a regular politician, this ain't, okay, right, let's go for it. And they fell for it, and I ain't going to judge people for falling for it, whatever, we've all fallen for stuff in our life, that's fine. But hopefully now, instead of going, right, who's the new hero? Let's get on board with Thomas Massey, let's get on board with, you know, Marjorie Taylor Greene, or whoever else they give us, or give you as an American, or with us, you know, Reform, basically are the new Trump in that sense. Tell you what, I'm going to walk this way, because otherwise I am literally going to blind you. Well, not literally. But hopefully, they don't fall for it again. And they go that actually, politics is a joke. None of these people work for us. They are selected, not elected. They would not be there. They would not be allowed to be there unless they were serving on the behalf of the people that decide who goes there. And that decision is not made by us, the people. Because yes, we can turn out and do our little ticks to vote, but at the end of the day, if they don't want someone to come into power, they won't. They will fix an election, as they did with Trump, because they didn't want him back in 2020. They wanted him back in now, clearly. They can fix an election, the brakes can fail on the car, a scandal can come out that can destroy them. With Corbyn, with the anti-Semitism stuff, which of course was all nonsense, but it destroyed him. So if they didn't want someone in power, like they didn't want Corbyn, clearly, they can make it happen that they're not. So when you look at it and think, well, if this person is allowed to come to power, if I'm allowed to vote for them, there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. They tick a box for them. And so maybe we don't play along and we don't fall for it with reform in the UK in terms of being that alternative. Because that's how they're trying to frame them. They're trying to frame them as essentially the new Trump, isn't it? Really, you know, it's mega. It's make England great again. And that actually we start to say, do you know what? Stop giving our power away to these people and accept the reality that no one's coming to save us. Now, when I say that, people think that's quite defeatist. They go, oh great, oh brilliant, no one's coming to save us then. Yeah, but that's a good thing. That's actually a good thing, because we're not reliant on other people. We're reliant on ourselves. And that was, for me, what was probably the most magical thing about the COVID era. And that's what built the massive resistance movement, was the fact that everyone knew no one was coming to save them, because there was no alternative. In America, you had Trump, who was president at the time, you know, pushing warp speed, wearing his mask and doing the lockdowns and all that stuff. And you could get rid of him if you wanted to at the next election. You could vote for Biden, who was going to do all the same stuff but wear an extra mask. And in the UK, we had the Tories, so-called conservative, anything but, who were pushing all that nonsense. Boris Johnson, who I once heard was a libertarian, he spat my coffee out laughing. You had them pushing all the COVID stuff and all that nonsense and all the tyranny. And what was the choice? Starmer, who would have locked down even harder and faster. So people realised at that point, hang on, we can't vote ourselves out of this. It's us versus them. Okay, well, let's unite then. Let's stand up and fight. We actually have to get off our backsides, not once every 4 years to put a tick in a box, but actually get off our backsides and protest and organise and refuse to comply and build tribes and you know, and we did all that stuff. And the amount of mandates and things that were turned around and flipped on their head when they realised that the power is with the people. Well, I say they realised, they know that anyway, they just don't want us to know that. And then that unity was something special, and I'll be honest with you, you know, I was saying earlier about everyone falls for something. I fell for it. I fell for the fact that this was it. We were coming together. And I was marching in the streets of London, hundreds of thousands of people, all different creeds and colours, walking next to people wearing hijabs, going, yes mate, we're on the same team, we're Team Humanity. I'm walking backwards so I don't blind you. We're Team Humanity, we can win this. And then it all went Pete Tong again. Everyone went back to the whole tribal nature and disagreements and shite, and it's very frustrating, heartbreaking even actually. Fear of sounding melodramatic, it actually has been quite heartbreaking the last couple of years particularly. But you know what, with digital ID, COVID Mark II, maybe we've got another chance. We've got another chance to unite and to realise that it's on us, it's not on politicians, begging politicians, please do this, please don't do this. No, bollocks to that. We control our future, we do, the people. And you know, I mean to sound like John Bloody Lennon, but it is true. And like I said, people kind of find it quite almost defeatist, and you know, when you say that these people, no one's coming to save you, and they almost feel saddened by that, and they attack you for saying it a lot of the time. And it's almost like we're in this little castle and we're surrounded and we're under siege, and then I'm there saying cavalry's not coming to save us, and that to them then sounds like, well, we're dead then, we're done. But think about it, you've got nearly what, 8 billion people officially in this world. How many of them are in charge or are knowing what they're doing in terms of this and pushing and promoting this tyranny on us? 100,000? If that. So then you reframe it and you go, okay, yes, we are in a castle, and yes, we are under siege. And yes, they are trying to surround us, and yes, they are trying to force us to do things that we don't want to do. And yes, they are trying to cripple us and take away our freedoms and all of this stuff. Yes, I agree with you, that is true. But we're in a castle full of 7 billion or 8 billion people, and that castle is surrounded by 100,000 people. I don't think we need anyone to come and save us. I quite like those odds. I'm not a gambling man, but I quite like those odds. 100,000, and that's me being. I'm. You know, it ain't that many. I'm giving them an extra few soldiers with that one, I think. So 100,000 of them versus 8 billion of us, and they've managed to hoodwink us into believing that every 4 years we have to go put a tick in a box. That guy will sort it, or that woman will sort it. They'll make it all right for us. Still giving the power to that 100,000 people that are surrounding the castle, rather than going, mate, there's 8 billion of us, for crying out freaking loud. We don't need to take it, we don't need to put up with it, and we don't need to ask for permission. And we don't need to put all our eggs in the basket of one of the 100,000. We don't need to give them all of our power. And then cry about it 4 years later, when we realise that, oh yeah, no, they weren't the person they said they were. No, of course they weren't, mate, because they wouldn't have been on the ballot if they were. That's the point. So that's my hope, folks, that actually, as much as there's going to be a lot of people out there, a lot of MAGAs that are feeling pretty rubbish right now, and you know, I've always been against Trump, not because I'm pro anyone else, but because I know he's just another one of them. But I'm not gloating in that, the fact that he's shown who he was. I believed personally he'd shown who he was with warp speed, but whatever. So this isn't an I told you so, far from it. It's okay, welcome aboard, let's not fall for it again. The next time we're given some fake saviour, we don't need a saviour, folks. As long as you own a mirror in your house, or you've got a mirror in your car, or you've got a mirror in your purse, you can look at your saviour anytime you want, mate, because they're right in there.